Takes to the sky like a bird in flight, and who will be her lover? Khorne. The answer is Khorne. It's literally canon, dude. Valkia the Bloody is confirmed as the 4th legendary lord in the Champions of Chaos DLC, and as expected, she will be representing the blood god Khorne in only a few short weeks. She is my personal favorite of the 4 characters headed our way, and I am very excited to finally get a chance to play with her. But I must say, and quick aside here, maybe a little bit of a rant, I'm honestly quite impressed with the multitude of ways information has leaked to the public over the last year, but especially for this marketing roundup, it's been popping off like crazy. And if I'm being frank, it is getting out of control. Like, I don't know. It kind of takes the wind out of the announcement and trailer, right? When you already know it's coming 3 weeks in advance. And for some of you, you probably don't care. The earlier the info gets to you, the better, and the avenue it travels through, whether it be official or otherwise, is irrelevant. But I'm really not a fan of it, and I'm sure CA's not either, but they're the ones doing it. Unintentionally, I think. There's a reason Vampire Coast was such a good reveal, and it's not just because the trailer was so amazing, which it was. It's not because the unit roster and aesthetic was so well put together, which it also was. It's because very few of us, including myself, saw it coming. So when that trailer dropped, it felt like a true reveal, like something we'd never seen before. I like covering this stuff and talking with you guys about it regardless. It's always been fun for me, but I would definitely enjoy doing this more if the faction names weren't leaked a month prior, and if their internal info was locked down enough that it wasn't front page of Reddit a week before it's supposed to go live, right? Because it's not content creators leaking this stuff, it's Creative Assembly. I don't know how you guys think intentional leaks are supposed to work, but no, pretty sure this was not intentional, and we can add to a long list of stuff that came out earlier than it was supposed to. It happens far too often, and while I do very much appreciate having a good working relationship with them and being kept up to date with all the goings-on, this kind of stuff grinds my gears a bit. Alright, anyway, it's out there, nothing to be done except talk about them, and we'll probably need to split this into 2 parts because naturally I'll want to cover the trailer itself, and I don't have the trailer, I have not seen the trailer, and that probably won't be released until next week. So instead of breaking down the lore and in lieu of the footage we do not have, we'll do this a bit more informally and discuss the elements that did leak for Valkia the Gore Queen, consort, and paramour of Khorne. Paramour's a good band, by the way. Hayley Williams, pretty cool. So yeah, as her name might imply, she is a Khornate Valkyrie. Valkia, not Hayley Williams. She's an archetype I've fallen in love with even harder since beating God of War and dumpstering Queen Sigrun and her sisters, after having my ass handed to me several hundred times, but we don't talk about that.
Right, that's just perfect.
And as one might expect, she is a terrifying melee combatant, one of the hardest hitting human-sized characters in 8th edition. If I remember correctly, on par with Cetra, Archaon, and maybe only a handful of others, in terms of her attacks being resolved at strength 6 before items come into play, although I'm sure bigger nerds than I will correct me if I'm wrong. And unlike Village, she had a metric crap ton of flavorful special rules and items that I expect to carry over into Warhammer 3. Consort of the Blood God represents her hot and steamy relationship with Karneth himself, and on tabletop meant that she always had the Slaughterer's Strength gift, which resolved her attacks at +1 strength. For simplicity's sake, high melee attack, high weapon strength, and Total War, pretty straightforward. The Gaze of Khorne gave her a powerful inspirational aura, giving nearby friendlies a chance to reroll failed break tests, effectively giving them a second chance to not rout, but if they failed that once again, Valkia would swoop down and decapitate her own fleeing allies, as they were no longer worthy of Khorne's favor. Super cool on paper, unlikely to be translated into anything remotely like this in Total War. After all, nuking your own units is more of a Skaven play than it is a Khornate one. The Spear Slapnir is the first of her war gear, giving her AP, magic attacks, even more weapon strength, and the Killing Blow special rule, and while she will likely be effective against just about any target in the game, blending between duelist and wave clear in terms of combat efficiency, high damage spears tend to be bonus versus large in Total War, halberds as well, and that would certainly be an effective way to differentiate her from Skarbrand. Skarbrand is an amazing duelist versus large characters, but he has to build up to that through Slaughter and Carnage. Before that, he's not really meant as a specialist for hunting down large targets. Valkia certainly could be. She may not have the peaks of the Exiled one, because she doesn't have a way to stack up her weapon strength all the way to infinity, but will perhaps be a bit more consistent and naturally much harder to shoot as an infantry-sized target that can also fly. Skarbrand is a big boy, he is a big target, he is easy to shoot with cannons and missile fire. Valkia will not be. Uzul the Skulltaker, when he comes, will likely be bonus versus infantry and completely dual-centric. Again, Valkia will be more of a mix of the two. Her second piece of war gear is the Demon Shield, the severed head of the Slaaneshi demon prince Losifax, who tried to seduce her into becoming one of his harem when she was still but a mortal. Valkia didn't like that idea very much, dueled the creature all night long in a rather less sensual manner than you might expect, and walked away the victor with a still living, disembodied prize. The shield distracts and beguiles those who look upon it, making it more difficult for enemies to attack her, so think of Morathi's stacking of Heartrender and the Dark Sword and Enchanting Beauty, lowering enemy combat prowess in an AoE, and then the Scarlet Armor, eternally drenched in blood, gives her a powerful armor save, and further saps the weapon damage of enemies that are nearby and attempting to kill her. So she's got a lot going for her from a combat perspective. Let's check out her campaign elements, or at least the ones we know so far. We do not know her campaign mechanics as of yet. Those have not been revealed, because this was not supposed to go live, but we do know her start position, and as many of you had suspected, it will be taking some cues from the End Times and her rampage through Naggaroth, because she's starting near Malekith the Witch King in the upper left corner of the map at the Ironfrost Glacier. She does have some history with the Dark Elves, where I believe she dueled Khorne Darkhand and Malekith the Witch King both, burned some famous cities to ash and rubble before the Druchii exodus to Ulthuan and ultimately Athel-Loren during the Armageddon times. But this should be a really fun start position in Immortal Empires. To the east is Sigvald the Magnificent and his dark fortresses. Obviously, Khorne has a fierce rivalry with Slaanesh. You can vassalize a lot of Norscan tribes in short order. I think Aghols, Hmong, a lot of other tribes should be around that same area of the map in the Chaos Wastes. And to the south is Gromradal and the Dwarfs, who just aren't going to match up too well against Bloodletters and Chariots in the early game. And even when they get Slayers and Hammerers, they're still probably not going to match up that well against Khorne. And you can take the hat off the Dark Elf Snake early too, preventing their world-spanning empires from ever getting off the ground. Now, in my experience, it's more often Morathi who snowballs out of control, so I'm sure Malekith isn't super enthused with all the new threats on his borders. Gromradal might be an issue for him. Valkia almost certainly will be, but yeah, the Gore Queen's sitting pretty here, and if she can avoid being ripped open by Dark Shards, I think she'll be a major player in this corner of the map. Khorne auto-resolve and garrisons tend to be really strong, to the point where I'm not even sure AI Malekith or AI Gromradal will be able to take her Dark Fortress from her, and if she's able to build that up and start turning out stacks, well then, I think it's a good night to a lot of the factions in this corner of the world. In terms of her visuals and aesthetics, really like how she turned out, at least so far in this picture, that's all we've seen. Just looks super badass, pretty much exactly what I'd envisioned, because go figure, she looks like her official artwork and tabletop model. Case in point, artwork from 8th edition. Case in point, tabletop model from 8th edition. And I'd say that's about as faithful a recreation as you can possibly get, so nothing too surprising here. But I do have to laugh, because already I've seen evidence of the next great debacle brewing. Whether she should have hair or not, whether she's going to be a conehead or not, how hot should Khorne's waifu truly be? I don't know. There's going to be some debate for sure, and as was the case with Village and Festus, and most of the 8th edition characters in the trilogy up to this point, guess what? She looks like her 8th edition model. So I'm not sure what the debate's about, because I'm pretty sure there wasn't much community outcry about her lack of hair or her cone head when her model was first introduced on the tabletop, but this is what she looks like from a canon perspective. And I also had a little bit of a giggle when people breathed a sigh of relief about her not having a cone head, because from this image, you literally would not be able to tell anyway. Bloodletter heads, which her own chrome dome is certainly modeled after, aren't like a straight up and down high elf helmet. They aren't vertical, and they're not like Dan Aykroyd in 1993 either. It's the back of the skull that's elongated, and you wouldn't be able to see that from the angle we're looking at her from in this picture. We're below her, and the back of her skull is almost entirely obscured, so maybe she has a somewhat normal shaped head, but they're clearly using her 8th edition model as reference, so if you're not Team Conehead, I would not breathe a sigh of relief just yet. I haven't seen her trailer, I haven't seen her in action, but her official artwork and model is a Conehead, and she looks sick anyway, so guess what? Probably what CA is going to use. What I'm saying here is, pick your battles, boys. Pick your battles. I get some people are just memeing and are self-aware, but if we turn everything into a super divisive debate, then it's harder to take us seriously on the stuff that actually does matter, and She looks great, Conehead or not. She's not going to date you anyway. So, at the time of making this video, the plan is to cover the leaks to the extent that things have been leaked, but we'll save the lore, campaign mechanics, Khorne chosen aesthetics, and further gameplay analysis for when the trailer officially drops, I believe next Tuesday, if the other 3 trailers are anything to go by. In the meantime, I have a bunch of awesome replays to get to from many old and new world factions, so the content train will continue to roll on. Hope you guys can join me, and I'll see you all in the next video. Indie Pride, signing out for now. Have a good one, guys.